Blog Talk Radio.
Warning, the following program may include profane language, controversial viewpoints, and perspectives on the true nature of reality so far removed from the status quo, they'll make your head spin like a top. Young children, corporate executives, and religious fundamentalists should turn away now.
A hearty welcome to all my brothers and sisters around planet Earth. I'm Tim Bravo, and I thank you for joining us T-minus 3 days until December 21st, 2012. One last time, let's do this. Our guest tonight is you, listener. And just in case you haven't heard, tonight will be the final episode of this show. But I ask you not to think of this as an end, but rather see it as going through a transition. As death is just a transition from one mode of life to another, as the caterpillar becomes the moth, so will this show transition to a new name, a new platform, and a new format. Extraordinary Year was started because of 2012, and has always been just about 2012. Now, the year is winding down, so it seems appropriate to wind the show down on this final Tuesday before the end of the countdown, December 21st, 2012. The new show will come to you in the form of a podcast called Bravo New World, and it will live on the blog that I've run for years by the same name. I still plan to pull off the most amazing and topical interviews that I can arrange, and I'm already working on lining up some guests. I'm still going to be talking about world events from the awakening perspective. My absolute favorite part of doing this show has been interacting with you guys, the call, and iTunes, etc. I'm afraid you Blog Talk Radio listeners will have to make a switch, though, if you want to keep up with us in the future. One thing that will be changing is I'll finally be implementing a podcast format that Canada and Steiny wanted to use from the get-go. And if you followed the show from the beginning, you know who I'm talking about. Hopefully those guys will have a chance to get with us later this evening. They had something coming up, and so they are running a little late, and I'm not sure if they're going to be able to make it. And to you callers who are already calling in, I'm going to get you guys in a second. I'm going to pull you in. Don't bail on me. Just hang on just a few more minutes while I get through all this business about the transition going forward. So anyway, one of the things we're going to do is do what we talked about doing from the beginning, which is we just get together in the same place, turn on some mics, pop the tops on some Heinekens, and just kind of shoot the shit. And so I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to guess those episodes will start good and end great as we imbibe and joke around. So that's where we're going, kids. If you want to get a jump on the new show, head to bravonewworld.blogspot.com and sign up for email updates. You'll find the email subscription window on the upper right of the page. That's bravonewworld.blogspot.com. Now, Extraordinary Year has been a part of my daily life, as well as many of you, through the Facebook page. And I just don't think I could live without it. So I implore everyone out there, go like the new Facebook page right now while you're listening. Right now, please. It's facebook.com/Bravo New World Blogcast. All one word, Bravo New World Blogcast. I'll stop posting to the Extraordinary Year Facebook page tomorrow and start posting everything I normally would to the new page. You know, interaction is key for me, you guys. I mean, I dig doing these shows, but the whole point is to try to serve others. I'm trying to deliver news, important interviews, trying to lift up your spirits and help you realize you are not alone. I am your fellow freak. So let's be freaks together until our vibration of freakiness spreads to the world. The world. So if you have an interview idea, if you have a question, message me through the Facebook page. Have a news story, post it. So that's it. That's my spiel. I hope you'll make the transition with us. And with that, I'm going to pull a couple of callers who have patiently waited for me to get through that little business onto the air with us here. Okay, 425. Who do I have here? Area code 425.
It's Lisa Galarno.
Lisa! What's up, Doc?
Good. How are you?
And 678. Who do I have there? Area code 678.
Hi.
Hey, what's up? Who am I talking to here?
Hey, my name is Cyril.
And where are you calling from, brother?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Awesome. Atlanta. One of the things I love about this show is being able to talk to people from all over the place. So thanks for calling in tonight, guys. So if you would, take a look back on this extraordinary year with me. The show and the year. Do you guys have any thoughts or a story to share about how 2012 has met your expectations or not, or how the show has affected you?
Shall I go first?
Have at it.
Okay. Well, I guess I would say on one level, as we talked a couple of weeks ago or whenever it was, a month ago, I think a lot of the things that we would have expected to have happened by now kind of haven't happened. I remember when 11/11/11 rolled around and, that excitement really started to build up. And, there were a lot of really, I think, tangible things in terms of arrests and resignations and disclosure and all of those kinds of things that seemed lined up to happen, well before December 21st, which, I think we've been told for quite some time, if, not the date of ascension, is at least a very, pivotal point. But, what I've started to discover, I think, as I've kind of watched these things happen and, listening to a lot of people who are, extremely spiritual in nature, who are much more concerned with talking about, the energies and the flows of the energies, people like Bill Ballard and Jill Renee Feeler and, some of those individuals, is that, they seem to really feel these things. They seem to really, really feel these, like, various portal openings and see this, shift in momentum and all of this. And I haven't really experienced it on the, like, daily individual level, that they seem to be talking about. And I've really wanted to. I'm like, I want some of that.
Yeah, well, and we've heard so many people write about it. I know that you're following a lot of the same people that I am or have. Yeah. And people are talking about, oh, you can feel the energies now. And it's like, I want to. If I really think about it, I think maybe I do, but am I just trying to convince myself?
Yeah. Well, that said, I will say that, since we had our last conversation, and I would say just, a bit before 12/12, not like right on 12/12, but before 12/12, I feel like I started to finally feel something.
Yeah.
And, I've been trying to figure out how to articulate it, and the best way I can describe it is kind of like a fire in my heart. I know that sounds so cheesy. But
now, by that, do you mean like the physical sensation of warmth, or something else?
No, just this. Well, no, I will say there's definitely some sensation there. Like, I'm a person who kind of feels my chakras, and I feel things very strongly in the pit of my stomach, for instance, when we got that terrible news about, the children and the teachers and all of that, on Friday. I was sick to my stomach, like, physically all day.
I do want to, I know people are probably sick of hearing about and talking about what happened in Connecticut last Friday, later on in the show tonight, and I went ahead and scheduled the whole 2 hours. I don't know if we're going to use the 2 hours, but I would like to at least touch on that, not because of what happened there, but because of what I think may have been behind it and what it's being used for. But I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I'd love to hear about that. Yeah, for sure, because that was a very strange thing to happen, right now at this time when we're all sort of ramping up for our glorious future, and that was kind of the major wake-up call for us. But when I'm talking about the fire in my heart, I don't know. I've listened to all these channeled messages for quite a while now. Going on a couple of years, like really pretty hardcore. And one of the things I don't think I communicated fully when we spoke last is that the messages have had a really big impact on me, I think, in terms of my spiritual development. And, that's the conclusion I've always arrived at, is that, even if it turns out, that they're hoaxes or it's some kind of hocus pocus or what have you, I've always found the content of the messages to be really useful. And one of the things they talk about so much is that the process of ascension is really about us getting out of our heads, which are the things that construct the matrix for us, and getting into our hearts, right? and learning how to recognize the sensations, in your heart, in your chest, when things happen. So I've definitely developed an awareness about that. And I guess I would say the sensations that I've been feeling these last, couple weeks, 3 weeks, or, so, is really, like this expansion of my heart. Like I'm feeling things more.
So you think that it's related to your chakras, and you also think that it would be of value for people to try and pay attention to sensations in the areas of their chakras?
I find it really useful. I mean, I'm a person who's massively in my head all the time, right? My whole being is about being in my brain. And so for me to shift my awareness to, other parts of my being has been really useful. So, one thing that happens to me, for instance, is, as I'm kind of contemplating information, possible truths, realities, etc., I definitely get a sensation in my third eye and have for some time. Like I feel it kind of fluttering, like kind of opening and closing. And my heart seems to do the same thing. I went through a massive, heartbreak a few years ago and spent about 6 months waking up every day with like a 100-pound block on my chest, right?
Oh.
And you work through these things and you get over it, and now the sensations are different. It's something like I kind of feel like I've been broken open a little bit. I kind of feel like I was very contained. I had definitely isolated myself from a lot of humanity for a while, I mean, you're a music guy, so you probably understand this. I totally reconnected with music massively in the last 3 weeks.
It's a great escape. It can definitely be used for an escape, that's for sure.
Yeah, but you see, it's beyond that. It's not even just an escape. It's like I'm completely obsessed with Mumford and Sons right now, and I am just so overwhelmed by their genius.
So you mean more recently? Okay, I get you.
Recently I have a long-term thing with music, but more recently I've really reconnected with it.
Well, it can be used as an escape, but it is also such a wonderful method for connecting with spirit and connecting with that part of you that thrills, that can be thrilled. Doc, I'm going to bring into the conversation right now. We got somebody from Tulsa. Tulsa, who do we have?
Hey, what's up, Tim? This is Trevor.
Trevor! Dude, I was really hoping I'd finally get to hear from you tonight.
What's up?
Ladies and gentlemen, I've been waiting to talk to this guy for a long time. This is definitely one of our more active guys on the Facebook page, and just somebody that I talk to in my day-to-day life. So, good to hear your voice, brother.
Yeah.
My mother's from Tulsa.
I'm also bringing Friday's the 21st, so I got to call in.
Yeah, no, this is it. It's your last shot, bro.
Yes.
I'm also bringing in the lovely Flip Side, my wife.
Hello.
So, honey, you're on the line.
Hi.
Okay, so, Trev, did you have a comment kind of picking up
where
Lisa
was? I was listening in, so...
Okay. Well, you know what? Just listen in and chime in wherever it feels right.
Yeah.
Guys, don't worry about stepping on people. It's a radio show. It's a conversation. And I'd love for it to get a little rowdy, so do what you want.
Tim, let's talk about where you're at. What do you think's going to happen on Friday?
Well, I'm not a long way off from you, I don't think, if I am off at all. My view is it's not 21st yet. It hasn't happened yet. Anything could happen. If I've learned anything over the course of this show, talking to people who are plugged into spirituality and the essence of how reality is constructed, I know that it's about choice, and it's an unwritten choice. We still have time to choose. Our choices now and our thoughts now are constructing, co-creating whatever it is that happens at that point. I mean, yes, all time is now, and yes, we are choosing right now what will happen then. There's all sorts of potential for anything to happen. A major disclosure event, some sort of contact event, some sort of feigned catastrophe, some sort of EMP attack. The sun could belt something out that, like it did recently, that had it, been directly hit at Earth, would have fried the grid. If something like that happens, we're talking maybe 3 days of darkness in a metaphoric sense. But anything could happen. We know there is going to be a unique alignment between the Earth, the Sun, the center of the galaxy, and the star that our star revolves around, and the star that star revolves around. This is something that has not happened, and we don't think it's ever happened. So the Mayans knew that something big was happening then. They knew that there was going to be this alignment with the Pleiades and the center of not the universe, but the galaxy. So, the Mayan calendar does end on Friday. Did know something was up. My attitude is, worst case scenario, we're simply reaching the midpoint of a transition. So if that's the case, everything should be downhill in a good way.
Yeah.
But, I don't know what you guys think.
I think that's true. I mean, the channelings, I will say, I tend to get confused by a lot of people who are sort of like the intermediaries, and so I found that going directly to the channelings is sort of the easiest way for me to parse through everything. And there's a lot of momentum in the channelings for sure, and they're coming fast, they're coming furious. The tone of them is much more excited. It's all about specifying the dates. They talk about the 21st, they talk about the 23rd, and they talk about it like it's going to be this glorious party.
Well, I'll take a party.
So, big party. And, how, essentially it's, the story, of course, is that the 21st is the day the Matrix is shut down. We get our upgrades. We get to reboot into this new reality, which it sounds to me like won't be 100% different from the current reality. We just get to get rid of all the crappy stuff, which seems pretty awesome. So, I don't know. There's still a lot of movement and a lot of people talking about it and a lot of people channeling, various extraterrestrial entities and angels and other spiritual beings. And, Archangel Michael is like on the horn every single day through various different, individuals. And there's just if you just take stock of sort of the vibe of the movement. I mean, the buzz is definitely increasing. So, I'm personally just really curious to see kind of what happens, if anything. And I think the thing that's going to be a little disappointing, to us, the slightly more pragmatic people who have been watching this, is if we can't see that something tangible, and then we get the messages the next day saying, oh, yeah, that was this amazing portal opening, and didn't you feel it? And now we've got all this great new energy, and oh, it's so wonderful. And we're just
I'm sure the suggestible
kids are getting shot in schools.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily a natural occurrence. One of the things that's changed for me over this year, when I first started this show, I was really heavy into using channeling and defending channeling as a source of information. And I have pretty much virtually stopped reading channelings at this point. I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, I all power to you, Lisa. I'm not trying to discourage anyone. It's just, according to the channelings that were given us in 2010, 2011, even the tried and true ones, the ones that we felt were safe, like Salusa, according to these sources, I'm kind of embarrassed, so I backed off it. The predictions were made that just haven't come to pass. At this point, we should have had disclosure according to what we were told. We should have had our friends walking among us according to what we were told. We should have had Nara, as from what we were told, in free energy and removal of the cabal. And, we don't have these things. And what we do have is that, these people are still in control, even though we're being told that they're in containment or whatever. Barack Obama is supposed to be this white knight in shining armor, and I'm seeing a guy who signed the NDAA, who basically bent over on health care, who has killed 2 Americans without due process, signed off on it himself, and has been responsible for actions that have killed countless innocent children. I mean, we want to talk about the poor kids who died in Connecticut. Many, many, many more kids have died at Barack Obama's hand. And so that's one of the things that's changed for me over the course of this year.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I mean, I don't disagree at all with that perspective, other than to say, let's just take 2010 to now as an example. And, there have been a lot of changes. I guess the thing for me is just the fact that, yes, clearly the cabal still has a stranglehold, at the very least, on the mainstream media. But we know a lot of this stuff is happening underground. I mean, every single thing you kind of ticked off in terms of, the cabal, the resignations that we've seen, it just seems like a lot of people are being taken out of the loop one way or another. We've also seen disclosure. Now, we haven't seen disclosure through the mass media, but we have seen massive disclosure coming out of lots of, different countries in various forms. The Ecuadorian military, completely opened the doors on everything. We had, the Russian prime minister, maybe he was joking. I don't know. I actually speak Russian, and if he was joking, it was about the most deadpan joking I have ever heard.
Anybody who watched that interview, I mean, the joking, that was something that was subjectively applied to his response. He did
mention Men in Black, but it was kind of like an afterthought. Like he was
but the way he said it, he was saying, if you want to know more, just check out the movie Men in Black. I mean, you're right, he was deadpan. He was very serious. Sorry, Trev, what was that?
Didn't he call it a documentary?
Yeah.
He did. He called it a documentary.
Men in Black, and then I was like...
And he certainly didn't seem to be kidding to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're right.
Up to him saying that was totally serious. I mean, he was saying, like, when you're the president, you get this dossier and that dossier and this bunch of information and blah, 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 blah. And at the beginning of the interview, I think he said something along the lines of, okay, this is the only time I'm going to tell you this.
Well, it was a direct question, and it was a direct answer. And
he thought he was off the mic.
And I don't think
I understand.
Well, that's what they said. His answer did seem a bit, as if he were parsing his words, doing the whole official speak thing, or being Medvedev. How's his name? Pronounce his name for me. Medvedev?
Medvedev?
Okay, well,
yeah.
That dude?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
He seemed to be pretty serious and know what he was doing. It didn't seem to be off the cuff or a joke to me. And you're right. There has definitely been little bits of disclosure here and there, but what we need is a societal acceptance of the reality. Beyond disclosure, what we need is a societal acceptance of the visitation and the technologies and the fact that the visitation has been ongoing and the United States government has covered it up and has been doing, had dealings with these beings for many years and has obtained these technologies that could be so beneficial for all the people of the earth and have kept it from us. That's what we need. We don't need Ecuador telling us what they know. We need the people of the earth knowing what we know.
Yeah, no, we need a proper authority at this point. And this is what I've been saying all along, is that's what's going to make the huge difference, is once we can have a major government or major world leaders, and not just one. I mean, even Obama getting on the TV and, telling us the ETs are here and have always been here isn't going to be enough, because he'll be discredited, pretty quickly, or criticized, or, the skeptics will come out.
But if it was Barack Obama and Boehner, maybe it'd work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always looking at these things and looking at these little pieces of news and going, okay, so what is that about exactly? Why are we suddenly paying Pakistan $600 million? This was news like today, because
they are an ally.
Yeah, but, there's just strange movements of money in the world. There's underground movements. There's like Bitcoin. I have a friend who's major with the Bitcoin.
Oh, yeah?
Which is like a virtual currency.
Right.
And, there's a lot of people working on a lot of different things. And, I don't know. So what the channels say is that there have been delays. The reason there have been delays is because they have not been able to completely take the cabal out yet, and it's simply not safe for them to, not safe for them, not safe for us, for them to disclose their presence fully until those people are out of the critical parts of the system that they occupy.
Yeah, but the same channels have said they have the ability over and over. We have the ability to do, we could go in and just take somebody completely out of this reality and send them off to this other place. I mean, they could do that en masse. They said that the orders have come down from on high to
I know, God has said that just needs to happen. Yeah.
It just seems like excuses to me. And when that information is only coming from channels, it's interesting and maybe a little disappointing to me that here we are 3 days out from December 21st, 2012, when we don't have a podcast from David Wilcock on a daily basis. His silence the last couple months, aside from, just a little piece of unrelated this or unrelated that here and there, compared to the wealth of information he put out in the previous 2 years. It's like, where is Wilcock?
We're 3 days out. Why don't we have an instruction sheet yet? I mean, seriously, I'm thinking about, okay, do I need to make sure I'm with my kid on Friday? She's going to be at school. She has an early dismissal. There's a lunch thing. Do I have to go over there and make sure I'm there at 12:12 so we're together? I mean, you know what? I don't know how this works, right? So you would think
location is an illusion.
Well, I know. I'm not actually worried about it. I mean, if these are, the advanced beings they profess to be, I'm sure they can handle a few logistics. I'm not worried about that. But, on the one hand, on the other hand, it's just like, why doesn't anybody know? If there's supposed to be this massive grand event that's going to be this massive shift in our reality, I mean, think how much time we spend talking about presidential elections leading up to an election, right?
Well, that's a purposeful distraction too, I would say.
It just seems it should be more tangible by this point. Now, I say that on the one hand, and on the other hand, I will say, just like I told you last time when we were talking, I'm kind of like, okay, well, if it happens, cool. If it doesn't happen, it's okay. We've got it. The tide has turned. I mean, we know this. And the world that's on it is on, the path, to being what we need it to be. And the geeks have won, and we're the ones who are proliferating information, and we're the ones who are making it happen.
Go Team
The geeks and the freaks. Yeah. Well, it was funny when you said that because I have a magnet on my refrigerator that says, it's got like a picture of a flamingo and, I don't know, some weird creature. And it says something like, thank God we're not the only freaks. Right. So I think we're making it happen. So it's kind of
you're right.
Whatever.
There's immense hope. There are bright points. There are bright spots. We definitely are being visited by off-worlders. We still are. There's immense hope going forward as more and more people awaken and add their resonance to our collective vibration. And, we swing our co-created reality toward the world we thought we'd have by now. We do have Sirius, the movie, in the near future, hopefully. Free energy has been reportedly on the cusp. And so there are a lot of bright points, you're right. And I don't mean to just piss all over everything. And
no, you're just saying what we're all thinking. I mean, if you're... Sorry.
Am I saying what we're all thinking?
I think so. I mean, certainly, the rational among us, I'm not very good with faith. I went to Christian schools for years. I know you had a Christian upbringing, and, I think you kind of lose faith in faith after a while.
I lost faith in a specific religion. See, I think, and I'm going to bet that you will agree, that before language was even something you could use, from the moment of your birth, from the moment of consciousness and sentience, that you have had an intuition about the higher order of things, and call it God, call it what you will. I've always had an intuition and a connection with spirit, and I've never doubted it.
Oh,
never.
That's cool.
I did have
that.
A horrendous.
I have a lot of silence in my head. Sorry, I keep talking over you.
No, that's fine. That's all good.
I have something different, though. I do have something. I mean, I have an intense internal optimism that I have always had from childhood. And, you know, I got a lot of sci-fi when I was a kid. I watched a lot of Star Trek, you know, and those realities really resonate with me. I have no issue imagining life living in space, traveling in space, you know, being a galactic being. I mean, I can totally imagine that.
Envision it, yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Been there, done that.
No problem at all. You know, and I think, you know, ETs or no, you know, that's going to happen too. I mean, we're going to have moon vacations, you know, within the next 20 or 30 years. And, you know, the ETs could come along and help us speed it up with, you know, some real propulsion other than, you know, chemical, you know, rockets and things like that. And that would be amazing. So I'm super hopeful, you know. Even if December 21st comes and goes, nothing other than, ooh, did you feel the energy? I'm still really hopeful about our future.
Well, as we should be. I mean, optimism, if we know how everything works anyway, I mean, we know that thinking well of the future is only going to be in our best interest. So Exactly. I mean, there's no reason to not be hopeful about it, because where has not being hopeful about it gotten us in life? It doesn't get us very far, you know, and at least it gives us something to think about, you know, what little tiny piece of impact can I have that you will seed the collective intelligence towards, you know, what we all want it to be, you know, so that's what gets me up every day. We've gotten a couple other callers. 918, is this Trevor who dropped out and came back? Okay, cool.
The call dropped.
And it looks like Matt, is that you, brother?
Hey, it's David, Catherine, and Matt in the car.
Awesome. Hey, guys, what's up? We've got Canada and Steiny and the beautiful Catherine joining us, all on one line.
Hi.
Okay, so now that you guys are with us, we're talking about 2012 hits and misses, you know, just kind of retrospective on the year. No zombie apocalypse. Are you guys disappointed?
Not really, no.
Nah.
Are you hoping the next 3 days will bear fruit, so all those guns and stuff you guys stockpiled can be put into use?
You know, it was a real fun hobby. You know, it's a real fun hobby to have, and you know, I plan on using that gear regardless. It was just one of those ideas, but you know, I don't really want the world to end, and I don't think it's going to end. But it was still fun.
And we've got area code 213. Is this Scott Jordan?
No, this is Pete.
Pete! Hey, you're back home now, right?
Yeah, I'm back in Tucson.
How's your son?
Well, he's doing good. I guess he's on the East Coast right now, having some fun and just waiting for his trial date, you know.
Just for listeners, old Pete used to call in a couple times back. It's been a couple months since we've heard from you, but I followed him and heard that his son had some problems out east with the law. And old Pete went to help him out with those and stood up to the man and got some stuff done. So more power to you, brother.
Well, you know, hey, those tasers have killed a lot of people, you know, and they shouldn't just be tasing willy-nilly. You know, we're looking at...
Or Willie Nelson.
Yeah, you know, 550 deaths in the last 10 years because of tasers, and they put them down as, you know, less than lethal. And they're killing people, and those should be tagged lethal weapons.
You know, a month ago, I got to put together a promo that was just a string of video of cops tasing each other. I should send that to you just so, you know, you can have a smile.
I think I'll like that, yeah.
Okay, so you new guys to the discussion. How do you feel about how 2012 has panned out?
I'm feeling really good about it. I really am. I think that what we're going through, man, we needed to go through. You know, at this point in time, to have what has happened to us, man, you know, it was coming to us regardless. And so, you know, this happening, this tragedy over the weekend, you know, it's kind of like it's a wake-up call, and we're going into a time right now to where we have a collective tragedy in grief, in a way, going into this. So, I mean, I think this is kind of bringing people into a more interior thought process about who they are, themselves and all others. And I think that on the collective alone is going to really change who we are.
Well, maybe we should get into the discussion of this now. Because I know, Pete, you're less of a conspiracy theorist than I am. I see all of these all the gun violence in recent months as not being just part of this random surge of unconnected events. It is my belief, and there is some evidence, that these things are being orchestrated by some not very nice people. Okay, let's go back to the James Holmes shooting in Denver.
Well, we don't even have to go there, because all we have to do is look at the wars that we're being drug into by authorities.
Well, the reason I bring it up is because I want to tie these shootings together, Pete. There's something that I believe ties them together. And in the case of James Holmes, we know for a fact, because I researched and found a San Diego local article that was put out, because James Holmes is a local boy there, that talks specifically about his father and his father's connection to FICO, this credit and investment bank regulating body. Now, the rumor was that James Holmes' father was supposed to testify, about LIBOR, making the LIBOR banksters look bad. And so the rumor, the conspiracy is that they used mind control and drugs, and who knows how exactly, to get this guy to do these things. And we're talking about somebody who, if you remember him the next day in court, he was dazed. He didn't seem to know what he was doing. I mean, this guy seems to have had help. And now let's look at, right after that, we have the Sikh temple shooting, where the head of the congregation just happens to be the father of the director of the upcoming movie Sirius, that will blow the doors open on UFO disclosure. I mean, they have a little 6-inch alien body. They don't have just video of it. They have video of them doing tissue samples and tests on this thing, and an X-ray on this thing. You can see its whole skeletal structure. We've got an emergency room doctor, a physician, who's behind the whole disclosure project, Dr. Stephen Greer, examining this little body. And this is going to be a feature point in this upcoming movie. Well, the director of this movie's father just happened to be the head of that congregation and just happened to have been shot and killed. We have...
Tim, can you're going to mention, I'm sorry, just before I forget it. So the most recent shooting in Newtown...
Lanza.
Did you read the news that there was a very similar attack in China? A Chinese guy attacked a school.
Actually, it was Japan.
And stabbed... No, it was China, I think.
No, it was Japan.
I thought it was...
The day before. I posted it earlier today.
No, same day. Oh, okay.
It was
China.
I heard about it. Well, maybe there's more than one, because the day before Connecticut,
children stabbed.
Yeah.
None of them died because it wasn't automatic weapons. No, it was strangely synchronous. I mean, it happened literally within hours on the same day.
Well, I remember
China.
Going into work, and it was news report on NPR, and it was going into work on Thursday, where there was the report that this had happened in Japan, and the guy was, local authorities were saying he was, mentally unstable or whatever. And that happened the day before the Connecticut thing happened. And that's why I was thinking, what is going on here?
Yeah. I look at a lot of things to where if I don't really know, I just kind of leave it, because that's not my area to go into. It's just because I've seen things in my own life. Synchronicities are like, holy cow, this is blowing my mind. You know what I mean? So, I mean, when things start synchronizing, it's kind of like, we can go so deep into that stuff that we can find relationships with everything. So I don't get stuck on those things, and I just kind of let them flow, and let's just see where those things, or what comes out by people that do get into it. I can't. I just, because it's kind of far from me, and in my own life, I've been part of synchronicities, man, to where it just, it's
unbelievable.
unbelievable.
It's the divine order of the universe, right? I mean, everything that will happen has happened, and everything's in complete order, and therefore you've got patterns and synchronies, and yeah, it's part of the fabric of the universe.
Speaking
Pete,
of
I have
patterns.
a question. Oh, sorry, I was
Excuse
just
me?
going to ask Pete what he thinks is going to happen on Friday.
What do I think is going to happen? I think it's a unifying event. I think it's about unity. I think it's about unity and truth. And I think that, I think that it's about the sixth sun, you know? I think it's about the sixth sun. And I think that we're going into this new sun, and there's a veil, there's some type of veil, you know? And we're going to pass through the ending of this fifth sun into the sixth sun. And, you know, I'm looking at it as a unifying event that will unify us as a people, that will bring us together under, you know, what is really deep inside and where we stand within the unified body of our
Hey guys, you need to be quiet. He's going to be on the radio any minute.
Ladies and gentlemen, that would be Scott Jordan. I was just about to pull him in on this. Hi, Scott.
Hey, how you doing? Just making sure the background noise is down.
How
you been, Tim?
Oh, well, it's been an extraordinary year, Scott.
Yeah, it's. I haven't been on your show since we jointly interviewed the guy from ECETI, James Gilliland.
Yeah. That was probably back in February.
Yeah,
It's been a minute.
It's been a couple seconds anyway. I've been so busy this year with working on film and location, I had to shut down the radio show.
Oh yeah. Well, you put out a couple of things here and there, I know.
Well, yeah, I did the Jerry Cannon Finding the Ark of the Covenant, and I also just recently did Troy talking about the Electric Universe theory. And I do have another one coming up. I got another one coming up with Klaus Donna, and a new interview with Adam Trombley.
Ooh. For those who don't know, Adam Trombley would be one of the free energy inventors who was interviewed quite extensively in the movie Thrive.
Yeah.
Oh.
I interviewed him before that, and of course I've interviewed Foster Gamble several times. We have a good relationship.
Foster will hopefully, knock on wood, be one of our first guests in the new iteration of the show in the podcast going forth.
Oh, good for you.
I have a question for you, Scott.
Go ahead.
Hey, man, what is the Ark of the Covenant to you?
Well, what it is to me and what it is to the guests I had on the show, maybe two different things. Of course, I'm just an interviewer. I have the people on the shows. They say their theories or their experiences in life, and I go, wow, that's really interesting, cool. But Jerry was very interesting because of his take on the Ark of the Covenant, and it's a whole synchronistic story. There were psychics involved telling him things through his lifetime. He's an elderly gentleman, but he's been to Egypt and established very good rapport with the people who are out there, not including, of course, Zawi Hawass, who hates anybody who has anything to say about Egypt that he doesn't agree with.
The Minister of Misinformation.
Yes, very good. Yeah, but he's gone now, and the other guy that's taken over is a good friend of Jerry's, so he's not going to have any difficulty. Graham Hancock was over there. Was it Graham? I'm trying to think now. I think it was Graham Hancock or Robert Buvall. One of the two were over there, and they took a measurement off of one of the engravings because he also thinks that there are two sphinxes and not just one.
Two sphinxes.
Isn't the Ark supposed to be, is this the thing that's in the small church in Ethiopia that's guarded by the guy?
Yeah, apparently that's another theory. That's another theory as well. I've also heard there was more than one Ark, and I remember commenting on that. I think there's like 3 or 4 different versions of it. And I remember commenting on that, and Jordan Maxwell contacted me pretty much within a day or two and said, no, it's only just the one. And then I said, no, if you go to this, verse over here, and pointed him to what Jerry said. And then he came back and said, oh, actually you're right. There's more than one Ark. There's the spiritual arc, and there's it's a technology, and that's sort of where Jerry's coming from. That it could be crystalline. It could be crystalline in nature, and not like anything solid. I don't know.
Okay.
What do I know? I'm just a host.
I just think that we're in the arc.
Oh, you mean Earth? Yeah. See, there's a deep thinking man.
Well, it's definitely putting off some free energy, the Earth.
There you go.
Now,
we're in it.
Now, Lisa Scott. I was gonna say Lisa Scott was somebody who, in the beginning of this year, was somebody who I've thought about frequently as I have continued to fall away and drift away from paying attention to channels. Scott, you said something back at the beginning of the year that kind of struck me as funny and maybe a little more true than I'd like to believe. You called the Galactic Federation of Lies.
yeah. There's it's just people probably may not know who I am, but I started out 30 years ago as a researcher, researching parapsychology and working with Jeffrey Mishlove out of the University of California, doing work with out-of-body travel, near-death experience, all this kind of wacky stuff, parapsychology, and then getting into UFOs and becoming a UFO field investigator and handling a case, multiple cases, abduction cases, and I was a researcher. That's all I did. So for all that time, all I did is research, and then I sort of got hooked into the radio hosting thing, and that's been going on for about 3 years now. But originally I was just a researcher. That's all I did. And when the Galactic Federation of Light first popped up, of course it was very unique in the UFO field, because in the UFO field, especially 25 years ago, it was mainly nuts and bolts. And if you brought up anything spiritual within the field of UFO research, you would be, you'd be blackballed. They would disavow what you're saying as a non-reality. But then Jacques Vallée came out, and he made a name for himself talking just about that the non-nuts and bolts aspects of the UFO phenomena.
There was dimensional. Too, like sorry, go ahead.
They discounted all Hopi legend.
Well, I mean, the hardcore early UFO researchers were really only interested in nuts and bolts things, right? They don't want to hear about the ancient Mayans, the ancient Hopi thoughts. They don't want to look at Mexican carvings of UFOs on artwork and stuff like that. They were mainly interested in just pictures, videos, testimony, soil samples of landings, and things like that. There was very, scientific. But then later on, just the hard facts. But later on, there was a group that evolved that was more into sort of the dimensional aspect of UFOs and various other aspects to it. And of course, when the Galactic Federation of Light came out, that created a big boom. But then they kept making predictions that didn't come true, right?
Is that what David Wilcox is? David Wilcox involved in that group?
I don't believe that he discussed the Federation of Light.
No, I think he was more into that series of books. I'm trying to remember the name of it.
The Law of One series.
The Law of One. I was thinking one something. But, I mean, David's been around.
Yeah.
But David's been around forever. I mean, back when David used to go, 15 years ago, when David used to go to all the UFO talks, he was there with another guy. And the other guy did all the talking. And David would just sat there in the corner with his head down. And then, but he was paying attention to what everybody on stage was saying. Similar to Sean David Morton, by the way, who my co-host Tom met when he was 18 years old, and he used to travel around to all the conferences, and he'd say to Tom, "I'm going to be up there one of these days. You watch."
Okay, what about White Hat? You ever hear of White Hat?
Yeah, are you talking about the Hemming guy or whatever his name is?
Is he with with this Federation of Light?
Or
is he with the
honestly, to tell you the truth, The Wilcock Group. Well, Wilcock, back in the year before 2000, like 97, 98, 99, he had a Ascension website, not Divine Cosmos. He had an Ascension website, and it was predicting a whole bunch of things for the year 2000. January 1st, 2000, when nothing happened, he took his site down, wiped it off the internet. Unfortunately, and I know a couple of people who have a copy of it. But then he started Divine Cosmos and was aiming more towards the 2012 date.
Okay, Scott, what do you think is going to happen on Friday?
I think, and I've said this on my show multiple times over the years, that I think that there has been a build-up to something, and Tom will back me up on this, who is my co-host, that there's something going on, but I don't think you can rely on a specific date. And by the way, that specific date was given by Paco Voltan, who was he was one of the leaders of the ancient Mayans, and he wrote a bunch of stuff. And within that, you'll divine the date December 21st, 2012, from his writings. And if you ever remember from where is that place, Palenque. If you remember Palenque, and it had that huge sarcophagus with the lid on it, with the guy sitting on it, looks like he's on a spaceship.
Yeah, yeah.
You know the one I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
Well, that's Paco Voltan. Paco Voltan wrote about December 21st, 2012 specifically, and he
then went off
for
to
52
join
years.
the Space Brothers.
Well, no, I guess they buried him in a 30-ton sarcophagus.
Oh.
But I don't know if he went away anywhere. I think he was in the sarcophagus. But he was the one that he was one of the prophets of the Mayans. He was the most prolific.
The calendar still ends, though, at 12/21/12. No matter who says it, the calendar is set to end on 12/21/12 at 11:11 in the morning when the solstice begins.
Well, yeah, I mean,
and I have no idea what that means.
Exactly.
You know,
I mean, we know that
because I don't have a ticker tape.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, we know the calendar is that. With that date, when that alignment comes with that calendar, however they worked it out, it is 12/21/12 at 11:11 General Mountain Time.
Yep, you're right.
But it could just be the tipping point.
With the leap year, there was a thing going around on Facebook or whatever with the leap year, and I just wanted to maybe.
Yeah, Trevor. Well, what was happening there were people were trying to use our time.
Yeah, exactly.
Our
Gregorian. Converting it, or were they talking about like how they converted it to our time, or were they just saying that the Mayans didn't have the leap year?
It was a really bad, ignorant attempt to discredit the Mayan calendar.
And I was like, this is retarded. But
right, it's there. The day is there. It's a set date. It's there. It's going to happen that day at 11:11 in the morning. There's no argument about that.
No,
Absolutely.
there's no argument. It is going to end at that time.
Understanding that the Mayans count their days and their cycles celestially. So unless the Gregorian calendar can change celestial mechanics of our planet, then it's a correct date.
Right.
Yeah, we know that the astrological alignments and the astronomical alignments are going to happen. You know, us facing the galactic plane or whatever all that configuration is. I mean, that's independent verification, right? It's not just some dude, 1,000 years ago or whenever that guy lived. That's saying
that was 5,000 years ago, I believe.
Oh, was he 5,000?
Yeah, that's when the calendar began.
Yeah,
okay.
That's when the calendar began.
It's the last day of the 13th Vulcan.
Yeah.
The last day
Paco
of
Voltan was from 435 A.D.
Yeah, and it's the last day of that 13th. It's the 13th Vulcan, the last day of it.
Baktun, yeah.
Baktun, that's it.
Gesundheit.
Yeah, I've done a lot of, like I say, I've had a lot of research into it. I've had guests on talking about it. I've talked to all kinds of people about it on the air, and they have various theories about what's going to happen. And, of course, I was on the same net. Pardon? What's mine?
Yours?
My opinion is I have no clue. But I'm willing. I have no clue. I have no. There's no ticker tape.
Yeah.
Well, at this point, can any of us really feel that, some really super... Do we feel like everything's ramping up to some super significant event, or do things seem to just kind of be trucking along as they normally do? I don't see any major indications that something of major significance is at least foreshadowed for that date and that time.
Right. Now, if people use the date... If people use the date for their... If they use the date for their own personal growth... stop looking at people's pictures on the wall with candles in front of them. They use themselves and their own intuition and their own, depending upon themselves instead of others, let alone a date. But if they use that date for their own personal, growth, their own personal look inside yourself and try to find something, what's going on. Now, if the world ends, okay. I'm good. I'm cool with that. Hopefully it's going to be 20,000 foot wave. If we're going to go big or stay home. Or if the planet's going to split and we're going to go into a new dimension, you know what? I'm open for that too. I'm pretty much open for anything.
Well, from what we know, I think that it's going to be. From looking at it at 11:11, we're all going to look around and smile and say, "All right, time to get back to work." And I think that's what's going to happen. But still, at that moment, at that point, I think that going through that, just having that end date, what is the end like? Maybe that is the end of the world.
Well, they didn't say it was the end of the world. It's the end of time, according to the mind. Not the end of the world. That's an important distinction. And guys, I think that there's a fact that we are all energetic beings. We have energy fields that all interconnect, that connect with all energy fields everywhere. If we, the little, the energy creation factories that we are, if we all focus on something together at that point, there is potential for us to actually create an event. Instead of...
I would agree with that 100%. And that goes back to there was a mass meditation and crime rates went down. And there's other examples. If you remember Art Bell, back in the days of Art Bell,
right?
When Art Bell was a host, he used to and he only did it twice, I think. Once he did it as an experiment. He got everybody to think about a storm that was coming in an area, and it went away. It dissipated. And that's when Art Bell got afraid. He goes, because he had millions of listeners back then. So he was a little bit afraid that mass consciousness focused on something does actually have an effect. And that scared him. And the only other time he did it was to help Richard Hoagland when Richard Hoagland was badly ill.
Well, and
it worked then too.
The best metaphor that I actually can think of for this is I can't help but think of the concept of the singularity. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that idea, but there's this guy, Ray Kurzweil, who basically has projected that in, 20 years or something like that, artificial intelligence is going to reach a point that it becomes more intelligent than human beings, either for good or for bad, I suppose. But the way the singularity plays out is that it's this kind of new beginning because it's this major shift in consciousness. I mean, they also call the Big Bang is also a singularity. Anytime you create a new universe, it begins with a singularity. And I think about Friday at 11:11 a.m. being kind of like that. I think it's what Tim mentioned, when we first started talking this evening, the idea that we're just going to be able to go through a door, where instead of climbing the mountain, maybe we're sliding down the other side of the mountain. And it's hugely pivotal in that way, and it's kind of like the great tipping point. But it's not necessarily something we're going to perceive on the day, tangibly.
Everything you just said
is the conclusion I've kind of come to.
And there are a number of things that exist now that could create a major shift if the free energy technology that we know exists the stuff we know about, not the stuff that's so far deep into the black projects that there aren't even rumors of it yet. I mean,
the kind of stuff that my guests tell me off the air that would never say on the air.
No, we know this stuff exists, and that's the stuff we know about. If humanity was given this, it would change the entire power structure. It would change everybody's life for the better. I mean, it would completely reform our entire society and our globe. Pollution would be a thing of the past. Car wrecks would be a thing of the past. Health problems could be a thing of the past. Hunger, thirst, no clean water, you name it. I mean, and that's just with the free energy aspect of things. If we could get oncology to admit the fact that they're bullshitting us on a daily basis and admit that, cancer is unnecessary, it would completely reshape. Healthcare would be, if we just, we're allowed to take supplements instead of that becoming illegal, walnuts being classified as a fucking drug. Yeah. If we just turn the ship of state around from the direction it's going to restricting more freedom, less and less freedom, and I hate to do it, but I'm gonna bring it back to Friday, and all this big surge of these gun events. I think that they're orchestrated. I believe that they're orchestrated, and I believe the evidence is right in front of your face, because what is everybody talking about? Americans are, ironically, up in arms about guns. They're pushing for, including the commander-in-chief, we need new legislation. We need to crack down. We need to restrict freedom. And if you know about the New World Order agenda, which I've counseled people not to be afraid of, but to be aware of, if you know about the New World Order agenda, America is a big sticking point. You got a real problem with America because and I'm going to guess, Scott, your guys up there, although you aren't real big on the guns, Canada likes its freedom too. You got a real
we hunt up here.
Trying to put us under the boot isn't going to work so well. And we've got this nasty little Bill of Rights. Well, how are you going to get rid of it? And how are you going to get rid of the whole gun thing and then right to have guns? Well, if you have a bunch of episodes of this sort of thing, you have people begging you to take their freedom away. Just like with 9/11. Please take my freedoms away and make a TSA where there wasn't one, and pat me down so I feel safer. Make me take my shoes off.
And the thing is why are they talking to the little people like us, or common men like us, that are telling us, hey, you guys got to get rid of your weapons, when they got storages of nuclear bombs, and they got storages of mustard gas, and chemical weapons, and biological weapons. And
I had that thought today.
Killed millions of people with just one push of a button.
I had that thought today.
And it's like, come on, man, why don't you start getting rid of that crap?
Like, you want us to get rid of your weapons? How about you get rid of your weapons? How about we destroy all the nukes?
It'll never happen.
Oh, it'll happen.
We will never get rid of all of them, because there will always be bad people. And as long as there are bad people with bad intentions...
This is a time to bring up that argument, though. This is a time to bring up that argument. If we're sitting here and they're talking about weapons of mass destruction being automatic weapons, well, let's talk about weapons of mass destruction being nuclear bombs that are in your control, and mustard gas bombs, and all your other arsenals that could blow up thousands of people, men, women, and children, in the push of a button.
That's a good point, because just like guns, and just like weapons of mass destruction, the fact that they exist is, it's inevitable at this point, and that's something that it's the reality of the world we live in now. So
and it's the insanity they feed us by telling us we're insane when they're insane for what they're doing. And what they're doing, this is a worldwide problem. I mean, look at over in the Middle East. They're we're about to drop another one over there if somebody's got a banana peel. And it's kind of like, this insanity has to end. And if the leadership is going to tell us about weapons of mass destruction, then don't just tell us, man, show us what you can do.
Okay, guys, I want to dial it back here a second. Matt, in Canada, I understand what you guys are saying, and that is the situation now. I'm going to disagree with you that evil will always exist, and this is why. Let me make this point. Because in a world that doesn't have need, in a world where these free energy technologies are released and people's basic needs are provided for, if we reform the financial situation to where, people don't have to worry about food and water and paying bills and stuff like that, and they can just live their lives and grow and stuff, they don't have needs. If you don't have need, you don't have evil. You don't have, I don't have this, and I'm going to take it from that person, and it escalates into violation. If we can loosen up all the laws that we have and let people have their freedom back and just say, hey, don't fuck with anybody else. There's no need. You've got everything you want right here. Here, just have it. Just have it. Then you don't need to take it. And if you don't have that, then you don't need weapons.
Okay,
I believe it's possible.
Sorry, I'm going to kind of play devil's advocate here. I'm going to throw out here. Yeah.
Job.
I was going to say,
if we don't have need, then what is ever going to push us to strive to be the best that we can?
Our desires to be the best that we can that are inherent within us.
Well, if we are content to have everything that is handed to us, how are we ever going to get ourselves over the fact of getting out of bed in the morning?
Some people may be like that, and I bet it'll get pretty boring. And if that's what they choose to do, I think it would be a beautiful world for them to be able to make that choice.
I agree
and
with you.
People who get off the board, and there are people who are so driven. I
also think that's why we have those necessary evils, is to drive people to get up and do the shit that they have to do.
Flipside, is that you? Can I ask you, are you familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of need?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Actually, Catherine,
yes,
that's Lisa.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's Catherine. I thought that was Flipside. Sorry.
No, she beat me to it.
Well, so basically there's this idea. So it's this pyramid this guy Maslow developed. And at the bottom of the pyramid...
Yes, I'm familiar with it. So, yes, but continue. Explain.
So I think I agree with Tim that when you take issues of survival out of the equation, then what that allows you to do is that allows you to focus on the higher levels of Maslow's hierarchy, which include, things like belonging, which include things like self-expression, self-actualization, all of those things.
Good.
I understand that our drive to exist now is slightly predicated on that need for survival, but I don't think we have to lose that drive. I understand that communism set a really bad example, right? Classic example in the old Soviet Union is you'd get a whole bunch of products and they'd be fine, and then on the 25th day of the month, all of the products would start getting really, really crappy because everybody had lost their momentum because they'd gotten their paycheck. But that's because we have a current economic system that rewards people in a specific way, and it's an explicit system of motivation versus an implicit system of motivation. So you have to, and I think the Galactics have this figured out. I always thought peace, harmony, love, all that peace crap would be totally boring. I grew up
That's
with
a great point. It has been done before.
But it's not boring. Apparently.
It would be wonderful for us to exist in a world that, nobody had to sit there and outdo one another, but we do have a thing called greed.
Because there's a thing called need.
You want to better each other, and that's why they push and they shove and they do these bad things towards each other. It's just part of human nature.
And I'm going to respectfully disagree with you.
Yeah,
but we're not born that way.
Nature, but
no, I think
we are.
It's
we do grab the other baby's rattle. Yeah,
it's inculcated in our society to be that way. That doesn't mean that that's the natural state of a soul.
No, you're right. You're right. It is. It is definitely has been ingrained because us as Americans, we are a self-surviving type nation. You do what you do because you earned it. If you don't have it, sorry, you should have worked harder. that's the type of society we live in. But I mean, what do you think it would take to change that?
The end of need.
No, just start looking at life as a ride, man. It's just a ride.
Pete, I can't hear you say stuff like that without thinking I'm talking to Tommy Chong.
It's just a ride.
On my show, he'll be on my show next year, by the way.
Awesome. I'll be tuning into that.
Tommy Chong.
Dee's not here.
And I asked both of them, Tommy and Cheech, but they were doing a tour last year together. So I thought, okay, great, they're together again. So I asked them, but it looks like Cheech is still busy doing film and movies and stuff. So it's going to be Chong. I'm cool with that. Chong's pretty cool.
Hell yeah.
Hey,
and of course, we'll be
Tim,
talking about the legalization of marijuana.
He'll be calling in from Colorado, I'm sure.
Okay, one of you ladies was trying to chime in here.
Yeah, that's me. Sorry, it's Lisa. I just wanted to mention something that really kind of rocked my worldview in the last month or so. I don't know if you guys saw this video that came out, this North Korean guy who was born into a gulag, or whatever they call them in North Korea, because, apparently, some of the previous administrations in North Korea had this set of laws that they put into place that was called 3 generations of punishment. So if you had some kind of a dissident or something, either some kind of free thinker that, was contradicting, what the state wanted, they would imprison that person. But then not only would they imprison them, but they would imprison relatives, their progeny, everybody. So there was this 23-year-old North Korean who managed to escape and ended up going through China and ended up seeking asylum in South Korea and was given asylum. And I saw this just amazing interview with him that Anderson Cooper did on CNN. And it's just such a unique perspective to listen to someone who grew up in a prison, who never understood that there was a world that was different outside of his prison. And the only reason he ended up escaping or attempting to escape, and you can imagine how horrific his life was. I mean, they were eating grains of rice and, beatings, just every horrible thing you can imagine. Executions, all sorts of concentration camp level, basically. And he only finally escaped when he was 23 because someone else was brought into the camp who had actually experienced the outside world prior to this, and was telling this guy, you know what? Actually, the rest of the world isn't like this. And this guy's like, really? How is that? And they'd have these conversations about, no, people can eat what they want, and people eat like whole chickens, and just these like really crazy things, like to us.
Okay, I gotta ask.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask. Flip side, Steiny, Catherine, Canada. Does this remind you of anything, especially the Korean aspect of it?
We watched.
Yeah, Cloud Atlas.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is Cloud Atlas to the hilt.
Yeah. But what I thought was so interesting about it is I just immediately, my mind flashed to the analog of us in this reality and just not being able to comprehend what a lack of need means, what not having to fight for survival means.
Can't imagine a world without it.
Because this is our paradigm. We have only experienced this prison, and we've had no really good corroboration that there is another reality that's different than our reality. So I don't know. My mind keeps going back to this guy as I think about ascension, and I think about how his world was rocked by that insight. That, oh my gosh, there's another alternative that I haven't even contemplated.
Which is why I want open contact yesterday. Damn it. I'm ready.
20 years ago.
You're talking about
the collective effect of everybody understanding this other reality, though. I mean, it's been hidden from us purposely so that they can keep us thinking that the world is this certain way so that it remains this certain way, but it doesn't have to be. Reality is fluid. Reality is illusory and holographic, and we create it. I mean, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle proves it. You know, what we observe, what we decide. I mean, we can change reality with just our thoughts.
Can I take a step back for a second, Tim?
Okay.
I agree with that.
You were talking about the end of need and Cloud Atlas, and you know, a common theme that I saw in Cloud Atlas was, you know, basically it was. All right, I'm gonna cut to the chase here. Is anyone else excited for Les Miserables coming out Christmas Day?
Oh yeah.
Les Miserables is one of those classic stories of, you know, translate directly to the miserables or the wretched or the poor and the meek and the hungry, and you know, it's a perfect example of the misery that need causes. You know, just the basic needs. That if the world as a whole could focus and, you know, transcend to, you know, do away with that competitive fucking nature that we have, then you know, if need goes out the window, then you're right. We could focus on higher things, higher powers. You know.
You know, and when you guys were talking about that gulag, you know, thoughts of, you know, we're part of that. We have our own gulags. They're clothing industry down in Central America. You know, we're part of that type of stuff. Yet we deny to see it.
No, we in the West don't want to know about that. We don't want to know where stuff comes from.
Right, that gulag in
we don't even
Korea,
care enough to make sure we know what's in our food.
In that gulag in North Korea, who knows? Who knows? That gulag in North Korea could have been making the rubbers for our shoes.
Or our dicks.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to do it.
That was quick.
Thank you. Hopefully not too quick. Right, honey?
It's never too quick, Kim.
Oh! Clint Eastwood. Oh!
Hey, guys,
we're part of the predator system. I mean, it's a big predator system.
Well, the whole pyramid system that is our planetary society is a part of, you know, one-upmanship. Somebody is above somebody. There is a hierarchy, and somebody's at the top, and they're supported by the masses at the bottom. And what are the chances that you're going to be at the top or the bottom? And it doesn't have to be that way.
Well, and you deny it, frankly.
All over again.
All right, sorry. Those both sound like good points. Let's take them one at a time.
She can go first.
Do you really think that won't start over again? I mean, if we start from the basics where all needs are removed, you know, I mean, we are a civilization of a small community where all needs are met. Do you really think that humankind can sit there and not have that need for more?
I think that future generations can satisfy that need for more by helping each other have more, by giving each other more, and loving the fact and feeling fulfilled by the fact that they've given that more that the other wanted. And I think maybe not us, people older than us. Because we are so conditioned.
Do you not think that any evil is going to enter that world to where somebody's going to step in and do something that's just completely horrible, and then somebody has to make that decision? And
not never, but I think we can afford it.
That's if we wanted to. That's if we wanted to.
We can choose to forgive.
Wanted to. We can choose it to be that way, or we can choose it not to be that way. And we can do it collectively if we really want. That's right. And you know what? If we want to do it collectively, then it will happen that way. So it's what we
just have to abandon fear. We have to abandon fear as a species.
Right.
That's how it happens.
Yeah.
Okay, one of you other ladies had
another thing is I know that we're human beings and we're not about sustainability. We don't like status quo. and I'm looking at it and saying, then what is the greatness of our creativity? Where can we bring our creativity into this paradigm and
That's
say,
the thing that will satisfy us. Yeah,
this
I agree.
is how we can be satisfied through our creative talents to where we are making things blossom all the time.
That's a beautiful point, Pete. I love that. Now, one of you other girls had a point that we haven't gotten to yet. You want to iterate that now?
Oh, I think that was me again, and I think I slightly forgot my point. No, I remember my point. My point is that it was related to Pete's point, which is that we are all part of this system that creates slavery for people. And, I think part of the reason we choose to deny those things or we want to bury our heads in the sand is because we don't have the power to change it. And we need those rubber soles, and we need those rubbers for our dicks, and all of those things in order to survive in the world, right? And we have to get those things from somewhere. I hate it. I hate the fact that anybody on this planet suffers, or any animal or any being suffers on this planet for any reason whatsoever. But it's very, very difficult to opt out of an entire system that's predicated on those really fucked up values that some people choose to have.
I would bring up the possibility of replicating technology.
Yeah, that solves it.
Literally
that solves
replicating stuff out of thin air by just, manipulating energy into the form that it needs to be.
Yeah, a select few can already do that, by the way.
Thank you. Like I said, the technology we already know about. The Star Trek shit is real, guys.
Oh, it's beyond real. I mean, I've had guests on my show. I've had Wade Frazier on my show. I've had Brian O'Leary on my show. I've had, rest in peace. We really tried to help him out, but I think we were acting from a desire to help him. We were sending him out a cancer cure, and it was going to be picked up at the airport and driven up to his house and given to him. Myself and Adam Tremblay and another guy with the Apex Institute were sending him a nanotechnology, a nano crystal, nano gold, nano platinum, nano silica, and it had a couple of other things in it. But it was a solution that had been tested for curing cancer, four-stage cancer. And we were trying to get my supply because I was having a supply of it sent to me for testing to do the radio show. And Wade was paying for the flight to get out to where Brian lives, and then we had contacted somebody to pick it up and take it to his house. But we had heard how bad he was, and I think we were just emotionally reacting that I must do something to save the situation kind of consciousness. That I got to do something, and you just do it. Whether it's going to make a difference or not, you just need to be active. So I think that's what we were going through there. But I've talked to a bunch of people on the free energy field that have worked in these, and the stuff they tell me off the record that I said, well, great, let's get that on the show. And they're like, no way, buddy. And we've had a couple of situations like that. I mean, there's stuff they will talk about, absolutely. But the stuff they don't talk about is way more interesting.
No, I know.
And why can't
being
they
a host,
talk about it?
Because they'll get Stan Myered.
They'll get Brian O'Leary. I had to take that out of my show, by the way. That's one of the things I had to remove from my show. During the show, he revealed the name of the gentleman that stuck him at a conference with a fast-acting cancer, and that's why Brian O'Leary died.
Like Litvinenko.
Yeah, and what happened was somebody flew out to where Brian was living. He left the country. I'm trying to remember. Bill Ryan and Kerry Cassidy went out there and stayed at his place, and I think Wade's been out there as well. I'm trying to remember. It's in Ecuador, I think.
Yeah, it was South or Central America. I remember that.
Yeah.
Why did Kerry Cassidy? Where does that name come from? Kerry Cassidy, real quick.
Project Camelot.
Project Camelot.
Whistleblower Radio.
Okay, Kerry Cassidy. I've heard about these guys. All right.
Scott
Bill Ryan. I was
contact with her.
Well, I was a moderator for both of them.
She's got really good information.
I'm sorry I budged in there, but that Camelot, that's where it came in.
It's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good, man.
The point is,
it's
replicator
open forum,
technology is real.
Yeah.
And so
there's stuff that
we need to be replicated.
Oh, completely. Not only that, I'll throw stuff out there. I'm not going to tell you who said it. But imagine a three-dimensional holographic interface that you can manipulate physically.
Like in Minority Report.
Yes.
Okay.
But Minority Report, if you remember, he was touching glass.
Oh, was he?
And things he was moving around on glass, right? He had the gloves on, and he was doing those things, and there was glass he was touching. This is a three-dimensional hologram that's tactile.
Okay,
and
well then, that, like Cloud Atlas.
The way it picks up, the way it picks up your, bang on what you just said right there. Because I noticed that in Cloud Atlas, and I went, oh, it's coming out. What it does is it reads your brain waves, and that's how you sign in or log in by the way your mind is, this frequency of your mind. It could basically read the focus on your mind and tell who you are and say you have access to this program.
So
now there's somebody that had seen this because they were a free energy inventor, and they put the bag over his head, put him in a blacked out van, took him to an underground base, and took the hood off and said, "This is what we have."
Are these
and
technologies
keep doing what you're
from
doing.
The ET? Sorry.
Some of them, yeah, and some of them because we have geniuses who live on Earth.
But imagine,
Tesla was a genius.
Instead we put all the money and resources that we do into these defense contractors and these destructive black ops. What if we took all that energy and all those resources and put them toward helping each other and creating a world where people didn't have to worry about needing crap?
Bingo.
Planet would have to get over its planetary psychosis for that to happen.
I'm okay
because the
with
human
that.
race.
I'm there.
You're good with that, okay? Because the human race has had a planetary psychosis, and it's been trained and retrained in the concept of scarcity.
Right.
And not scarcity to the point where you're on Easter Island and there's a guy cutting down the very last tree going, "Oh shit." Not that kind of awareness. It's a planetary-wide awareness of programmed scarcity.
Yeah, we're constantly being told.
Scarcity. Yeah.
Yeah. If you look at all the images that Hollywood portrays, that the mainstream media portrays, just what Hollywood and the mainstream media portray as what a woman should be and what a man should be.
Yeah.
Just look at that level of training. It's extreme.
Yeah, it is. We're being programmed,
Yeah, and that's just a minor, little, tiny part of it. And you can go back thousands of years, this program that's been running.
That's it.
And we're all at the
much
program.
better at getting unprogrammed, though. I mean,
I agree
the
with you
fact
completely.
That we have
and the
free
children
flow
can
of
help.
information, and the kids are amazing.
It's like fresh
I
air.
agree.
Okay, we've got all this stale air, but then every once in a while, when you get a little breath of cool, fresh air, it'll spread out and make all the air better off. Well, we've got this in-streaming of children, of these souls coming into the planet who haven't been a part of this programming and who may just be not maybe immune, but a lot less prone to accepting the program, and instead have come in with some other ideas, and over time are diluting, are changing our collective resonance.
Not that we can't help them, because we can help them by not vaccinating them and not introducing them to the television. I haven't had television for 16 years. I have a 16-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 3-year-old, and none of them have ever seen TV.
We might have a riot in the
I
house
am.
if we tried that, huh, honey?
Well, I used to have a TV, but only for CDs. You could pop a CD and watch documentaries and stuff like that.
Yeah, or VHS
but the regular mainstream stuff, man, I'd toss that TV right out my window one day. Oh yeah.
Although I will tell you, as far as children's television goes, I have a child and I let her watch a lot of TV, I will confess, and she's an amazing creature despite that fact.
Makes a great babysitter, doesn't it?
Well, she just really loves it. And, here's my perspective on it. My perspective on it is that she gets to experience alternate realities through the TV. And I will say that shows like Phineas and Ferb is a great example, are awesome for expanding their thinking. I mean, she can wrap her head around concepts of multidimensionality and quantum physics and teleportation and all of these kinds of things. Stuff that it took me 20 years to wrap my head around is just native to her.
There was an episode of this program where Canada brought a clip from Phineas and Ferb that had them. It was the episode with the ants, the ant farm, where the ants became sentient and then like transcended reality and were enlightened and left. Like they came from ants and went all the way to we don't even need you anymore. We're going off to live among the stars. We've got the spiritual awareness, puny human. It was pretty hilarious. We've also talked about Adventure Time on this show. Have you guys seen that one?
Adventure Time, yeah. That
really bends
awesome.
Reality. And while I'm talking about, this is the last episode of this show ever, and it's been very fitting. I love having all you guys on. This conversation is awesome, and it's not over yet. But since it is the last episode, we have a tradition, or had a tradition that we started back when we first started, where Steiny, he's called Steiny, Matt is, because of his love for Einstein. And he'd come in with an Einstein quote once in a while, and he'd tell me to cue him up. And Matt, did you bring your all-time favorite Einstein quote for us?
I think so. You can go ahead and cue me up, and I don't know if I'll get it verbatim, but I might paraphrase, if you don't mind.
All right, one last time.
Und jetzt Zeit für Einstein.
Awesome. That's pretty sweet. Okay, so, any intelligent fool can make things bigger, more complex. But it takes a touch of genius and a bit of courage to move in the opposite direction. And that's it. And I think it speaks for itself.
Man. Yeah, make it simple.
Yeah,
That's why I like Love and Fear so much. If you can distill everything to the essence of, are we operating from love or are we operating from fear? Then I think it becomes really, really clear. And so to me, the ascension is about love. It's about us converting to love.
If you do away with all that bullshit filler that happens inevitably throughout your everyday existence, all the petulance, the greed, the fucking the pretentious attitude we all portray, that it's our fucking nature. We're all guilty of it at some point or another. But if you do away with that and you boil it all down, we all share the same reality, and we have a limited time here on fucking Earth, and what we do, what we make of it, it'll define us. So you do away with all that bullshit and all that complication, and you really boil it down to the essentials and the necessities. I mean, most people nowadays are striving just for those necessities.
Exactly. Where's our focus?
Yeah, then it all it just gets to come to the most important people are those that are around you.
It reminds me of my favorite quote.
Oh, you have one from Einstein? If it's from Einstein, I got it.
It's not Einstein. It's one from Helen Keller. Oh shit! I just had it.
Wait, I think I remember it. Doesn't it go something like?
Thanks, Tim.
Sorry.
That's all right.
She was beyond amazing. Talk about breaking out of your prison.
I mean, how do you do that?
I don't know. Beyond amazing.
Anyways, my quote goes: "Things cannot be seen or felt. They must be felt with the heart." Something like that.
That's good.
Things cannot be seen.
And that's what the ETs have been saying. That's what the channelings have been saying.
I have a quote.
Bring it.
Okay, what's your quote?
It goes, peace is finding. Remember it the next time you find your lost keys. Remember the feeling the next time you find your lost keys. Peace is just finding. It's just merely finding. The feeling of finding. That's all peace is.
That's a good one. I have one.
Finding that which you already owned.
That's a good point. I mean, those are both good analogies. Scott really took it a whole step further there. I mean, you could already have it, but you just have to allow yourself to.
All right. Steven's
okay, my
turn.
quote. Can I give my quote?
All right, it's Monica's turn.
Oh, whose turn is it?
It's yours.
It's mine. Oh, cool. Okay, my quote is short and sweet and simple. It's Emily Dickinson. The quote is, I dwell in possibilities.
Dwell in possibilities? Actually, we have that very quote at the entrance to the room that I'm sitting in.
Weird.
Thank you, wife.
Does that count as synchronicity?
Yeah, oh, yeah. That definitely is a meaningful coincidence.
If you fart and burp at the same time, you only have to say excuse me once.
That's like the old Mel Brooks, 2,000-year-old man. And they asked him what his secret was to living 2,000 years. And he said, I sneeze 1,000 times a day. Achoo. And the guy says, bless you. And he says, aha. See, I get 1,000 of those a day.
I thought it was going to be, don't die.
The old meaning for bless you was to save someone's soul from leaving their body.
Right.
The old belief was that if you sneezed, that your soul was going to be shot out of your body, so they'd say bless you, so it'd shoot it back in. Like a rim shot.
Look how far we've come. We've actually come very far.
We have.
Come as in C-O-M-E?
Oh. We're thinking fast. That's what I get for the whole rubbers for our dicks comment.
Yeah, now we're devolving. Now humans are devolving.
I opened the
door. They're devolving right in front of you.
So, Tim, how are you going to sum up?
Well, I really was, my plan was just kind of be off the cuff and loose this evening and just just have this conversation. I don't have a closing monologue. I'm not going to try and pull a Keith Olbermann on you guys.
Can David give his last quote?
Absolutely. We've got 15 minutes.
I was going to say, Tim, what you should do is you should talk about from the beginning of this year when you thought about doing a radio show to when you did a radio show, how you have evolved over that time period until now.
Well,
that's how you should sum up.
I didn't really complete that, but we did talk about that a little bit toward the front in how I was a lot more pushing of using channeling in support of my ideas to where I am now, being more of a realistic. I almost see myself as more of a Scott Jordan than I was at the beginning of the year. In Canada, we're going to get to your quote, but I want to. You talk about, Scott, how this whole thing got started, and it probably is worth mentioning, since I have all these guys on the line with me, that this whole thing started really at the last Super Bowl, sitting around drinking beers, watching football, and talking about 2012. And
Aliens Anonymous.
Right. We decided that we were going to have some meetings, which we actually did. We got together on like a Friday night and just sat around and talked about our ideas of what we thought things were. And then I had the idea, like, this conversation is awesome. This is the conversation everybody needs to be having this year. So, as long as we're talking about it, why don't we open it up why don't we put it on the internet? We've got this tool that's been handed to us by, time and the grace of God, what have you, and just let others listen in on it and chime in while we can still have our conversation that we're going to have anyway. So that's how this whole thing even got started. And so here we are, in a way, full circle. The year has come to pass, and the show has definitely evolved.
You've met interesting people.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to talk about some of my favorite shows, and I guess ask people what they thought were theirs. Mine, and I made some notes. My favorite part of the show was the callers. And, I've made friends with a few of the people who've called in, and that I actually talked to. Like Trevor just called in tonight, but just doing this show has put me into contact with so many people that I otherwise wouldn't know, who have given me so much hope and made me feel like I'm so less of a freak for having these ideas. So that's nice. There was a guy.
Oh, you are a freak.
I am a freak, but I'm in good company.
Yeah, there you go.
We had a guy call in from Brazil one time. Anytime a listener called in, I love that. The Where Things Stands episodes where, David, Catherine, Matt, and I would just kind of talk about the news of the day. Those were just fun. Talking with Daryl Anka, talking with Joel Garbin, James Gilliland, Louis
You had
Lefebvre.
Tolek. You had Mark Kimmel.
I would say that Tolek is, as far as the overwhelming popularity of those episodes. I didn't dislike them. I did have fun with those. And we'd have 130 people in the chat room. It was just insane. But really, the discussions about stuff that was more tangible, the free energy discussions with Joel Garbin, talking to Louis Lefebvre about Heliofant and the iPet Goat 2 movie he created. Just last week, talking to Scott Stevens about chemtrails. Those were really high points for me. That I don't know. What do you guys
being
think?
Connected to that changes you as a person, because being a host, you sort of have to play the interview game. But while you're playing the interview game, you're paying very close attention to what the person says. And if, like, later on you have to do editing of that show and then do more editing to turn it into a YouTube version, it really gets drilled into your consciousness. So, honestly, as radio hosts, we do this very selfishly.
How have you changed internally?
Well, I would say, and I guess I would ask, that I'm not going to answer this one. I'm going to ask my wife to answer this one. Honey, what have you noticed? Have you noticed a change from a year ago to now? Oh,
she's far more patient.
She's not. Oh,
patient? I'm far more patient. Is that what you said?
More tolerant.
Less angry all the time.
More or less hopeful, would you say?
More hopeful, definitely.
Well, I'd say I'm still excitable. I get amped up over this stuff. But yeah, the patience and the diminishing anger they're not necessarily just because of the show, but they're definitely a part of doing the show. It's been an overall journey over this year. A number of things have coalesced to make a more tolerant Tim, I would say. I do a lot more breathing and a lot more accepting and less resisting, and just try to go with the flow.
Comes from being a radio host. As a radio host, you have to sort of rein it in a little bit. You can't fly in their face with all your opinions. You have to sort of pull yourself in a little bit, listen to what they have to say. I had the Princess of Japan on my show, right? The woman talking about the 3 days of darkness.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one, she talks about the 3 days of darkness and yada yada. I mean, she said some things that was like, okay, bud. And I'm just like, hey, whatever, just throw it out there, go for it. I don't necessarily have no proof that she's met a personal alien, and they come and have conferences with her, and they told her there's gonna be 3 days of darkness. Okay, well, sure, more power to you. But I don't know. You just throw it out there. But you have to as a host, you have to have that patience to listen to what they have to say, because they're an internet personality.
Hmm.
Right?
Well, and
same thing with Richard Dolan talks. I mean, Richard Dolan's a genius, and he's got a memory, like an unbelievable memory. He can remember stuff like, oh, it happened 30 years ago on a Tuesday, and it was raining, and
one of those intellects, yeah.
He's super
Richard
credible.
Dolan.
He's one of my favorites. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Because he deals in hard facts and doesn't try to push things. He'll tell you the same thing. He deals in facts. He's that's the point he comes from, and he's an intellectual. And that ability to remember stuff just helps, and he's a credit and a help to all of us in being able to communicate these things that need to be realized by the general public.
Oh yeah, the Secret Space Program. Anyway, and like I said, Richard says things off the record that are pretty wild and crazy and cool, but there's only so far he'll go. He's got his new radio show now. I believe he has a Yeti mic as well. Tim, did you ever end up getting a Yeti mic?
No, I am actually still using a dynamic mic.
Okay.
It was a lovely Christmas gift from my wife.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, so I mean, there are people out there that you have them on their show, and it affects you in several ways. One, you have to sort of pull yourself back to listen to what they have to say so that the audience can hear what they have to say, and not you yammering at them all the time. And secondly, you have people on that blow your mind, that they say stuff and you go, okay, that was pretty cool. And then you have to sort of catch up, because you're so deep into listening to what they're saying, when it's time for a question, you ain't got one. You're empty. I got nothing.
That's happened more than once.
Because you're blown away. You're so into... Yeah.
Okay, where was I?
Yeah. I've had a couple of guests do that to me. They just say, Adam Tremblay is another guy. Had him on the show. He said something. I was following him along for 10 minutes, and I got so caught up in what he was saying. By the time he was done saying it, I just went, wow. And then dead
I'm
silence
supposed to talk now. Okay.
Yeah, that's all I had was wow. There's
going.
nothing there.
What are the alternatives, though, with these people? I mean, there's two possibilities here. Possibility A, they're telling the truth. Possibility B, they're lying. But why about all this stuff? That doesn't make any sense to me at all.
What's the this stuff?
Anything, any story they're telling. The Japanese princess telling the story about her direct contact with ETs and the 3 days of darkness, or Bob Dean talking about being taken for 15 minutes and experiencing 6 weeks on a, galactic mothership. I mean,
Bob's been changing his story for 25 years.
What's that?
Bob's been changing his story for 25 years. And I only say that because I've been in the UFO field for about 30 years now.
Yeah, you said that. So you have some
field
legacy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my co-host on my show was the president of MUFON Ontario. And I was, of course, a field investigator for MUFON Ontario. And a lot of these guys that Kerry Cassidy and Bill Ryan had reached into the past and, they resurrected them in front of the Camelot camera. I mean, we knew about them 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago. And it's like whack-a-moles. They go away for a little while and they pop back up again,
Yeah. Do you think they're making this stuff up?
I think some of them are, yes, of course, because they want to go and they want to go and they want to do they want to sell the books and they want to go to the conferences, and the conferences, there's people that have
that's why they lie.
Have spoken out. And we used to have jokes about them, like every time what was his name, Whitley Strieber was running out of money, a new alien encounter popped out of the woodwork.
Came out, right? Yeah.
David Wilcock, when he shut down the Ascension 2000 website And then a couple months later, the Divine Cosmos pops into the air.
There
and next
you go.
thing you know,
Money.
he's on a phone call with somebody from outer space, crying like a baby that they're coming to get him. So, I mean, there's a lot of these guys out there that
I remember. That,
I just wouldn't have them on my show, and I'm sure Tim wouldn't deal with them either because.
I would have to disagree. I would love to have David, and that was one of my misses this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to have David.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Scott,
I mean,
it sounds like you're a skeptic.
Well, I've tested people for remote viewing many moons, a couple decades ago, and I got that information, by the way, of how to do that from Stanford Research Institute and Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ and those guys. I didn't know at the time that they are a CIA front, to my defense. But I learned the techniques of how they were testing people, and I did that. And I used to do OBE research, NDE research, got letters from all over the world from people who had near-death experiences. So on many levels, I'm a believer. I was a parapsychologist.
Yeah.
I studied with the professor at the University of Guelph, parapsychology. So, yeah, I'm a believer. I was traveling down and talking to people about their UFO experiences. I was writing down separate accounts of abduction scenarios, looking at film of UFOs, so a believer on many levels. But because I've been around doing this stuff so long, I bumped into people that over time you sort of get the impression that they're making things up. Because when they go and do their conference and write their book, it's a very interesting scenario that they're painting. But then the next year will come around and they've got a brand new story and a brand new book. Yeah. And you've been like sort of, you've been in the game, you've been watching all the conferences or going to them, and you know that this person hasn't had time to have this ridiculous new abduction experience.
Right.
Or
why didn't they mention it before? Yeah.
Yeah, why is it just coming out now? So you sort of tend to pick out people that are making shit up.
So
what
guys,
do you believe?
I real quick, I got to butt in
do
here.
We have to wrap up?
Well, we don't, but the people who are listening on Blog Talk are unfortunately not going to hear after a few more seconds. So I want to say to you guys who have supported this show over this past year, we're going to continue this off the air here for a second. It will be in the archive. You will be able to hear it, so come back and listen to it. But thank you, bless you for giving us your ear and your open minds over this year, and we'll see you on the other side with Bravo New World. Now, you guys, continue.
I just want to know what Scott believes.
I guess I was answering the question whether I'm a skeptic or not.
Yeah, and you guys, I'm gonna say thank you very much for letting me in on your conversation tonight. I really enjoyed it, but I got to get going.
All right, well, Pete, thank you so much for checking in, for letting us know how you are, and for contributing.
Hey,
yeah,
thank
nice
you
to
for
meet you, Pete.
You too, and it was fun. So good luck with everything you guys do.
Excellent. Yeah, we'll talk to you down the road, brother.
All right, man. Later on.
Be good.
Okay. So, but if I may, Scott, what it sounds like to me, and I can relate to this. What it sounds like to me is you're saying, yeah, I believe there's definitely a lot of stuff. There's a lot of truth. There's a lot of things going on. There are things that we know. What happens is we have these elements who come in and muddy the waters. And when you're a person who is passionate about finding the truth and unraveling the mystery, when these people come in and muddy the waters, it's frustrating and you know, it almost makes you angry. It's like, why are you fucking this up for us?
Yeah, and it's like also the fact that when you're a boots-on-the-ground researcher, and by boots on the ground I mean if a report came in of a UFO sighting or an abduction or something, you'd have to get in your car, drive out there, separate the wife and the husband, interview them separately. If there's any other people involved, we got to interview them separately. If there's any sort of if there's a burn mark in their back 40 of their lot, you have to go and take soil samples. We would send those soil samples to the University of Toronto. I don't know why the people in America have such difficulty with samples and stuff going missing, because it never happened with us. You'd send the samples in. They would be tested to see what residue, if there's any radiation or anything. So by boots on the ground, I mean you're always out doing things. If you're investigating something, you go out to do it. But what you find now is a lot of armchair investigators. And I guess that sort of, armchair researchers, armchair investigators that don't really spend a great deal of time. And I'll give you examples of who I think are great investigators. Jim Mars, absolutely amazing investigator researcher. Richard Dolan, absolutely amazing investigator researcher. Boots on the ground, both of them. Richard will fly to Canada, go into a Library of Congress and look up, microfilm of local newspapers for incidents of UFO reports. That's a boots on the ground guy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yep.
But then you'll meet a lot of people that are not that. They're just sort of there. They'll come on, they'll have a thing on YouTube where it gets popular and gets a lot of hits, but they're not necessarily what I would call researchers. They're just, if they're people who are doing radio shows or podcasts or something like that, they may just interview people with no actual background investigation. They're just throwing it out there. See what I'm saying?
Right.
I guess that's
I'm
a
guilty
nod
of that.
to.
I'll have to admit.
It's a nod to some popular people out there doing that. But when you run into these sorts of situations, you notice things that you've noticed before, where people are just sort of making things up as they go. It's like poker. They have, what are they called? In poker, you have a thing you pick up on a person. You realize they're lying. They got a pocket twos instead of pocket aces.
Like a
tip. A tip, yeah.
They're bluffing, yeah.
They're bluffing. You pick those sort of things up. If you've been around enough of the people telling the truth, you can pick up people that are not. They're making stories
because
up.
they're consistent. Some people are consistent and some people aren't, yeah.
Exactly. So, and then you run into them over and over, and then you hear things and you realize there's other people that know them, and they talk to you, and there's interesting events that happen behind the scenes in the conferences, things that happen that don't get out there in front of the conference, if you know what I'm saying.
Like
these
I
conferences.
knew what you were saying. Yeah.
Well,
I haven't really been to any, so I haven't experienced that.
One example is Bud Hopkins. I mean, Bud Hopkins was bringing out these stories, and in the background, his wife was yelling at him not to push it, and he's going too far, and that she's accusing him of making stuff up. Well, that's happening in the background, but then, of course, they call his name, and he runs up on stage, and everything is honky-dory. It's back to the Bud show.
Wow.
Right? So there's lots of stuff like that out there, and over 30 years, you see enough of it that you can recognize it.
So what's your hope? What would you like to see happen?
What would I like to see happen? I would like to see Godzilla go away. And Godzilla is basically this cabal that's been running the show,
right?
With our help.
They can't do it without our permission.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and
but
once
we've
you become,
also not had a lot of choice in the matter.
Well,
there's nonviolent resistance.
If you're saying that the deck is stacked against you, yes, the house always wins, but not always.
It's really hard to opt out of the system when you have to. Physically,
well, that's true. No, you're right.
System to survive. Yeah.
Right, and I ask people on my radio show, and I've been doing this for several years now, and I ask people in every walk of life. I work in the film industry, so I get to meet a lot of people. And I ask people, what would you do if money didn't exist?
You know what I say? We'd do the right thing all day long.
That's a good answer. Do you know what the number one answer is?
Nothing?
I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've done this for 3 years now. Ask people this question. And the number one answer is I don't know. You'll have linear people who will say stuff like, but what do you mean money doesn't exist? I expect to be paid for what I do.
Well, see, they can't imagine the
so
world outside of the prison, and the prison is the economic system we're in. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So they're going at it from a linear point of view, saying, what do you mean a world without money? I expect to be paid for my work. So these people are fully trained. Okay, yeah. They're roboticized.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the other people will say, oh, okay. Well, I would write a book because I've always wanted to write a book about this certain thing. And other people would say, I'd play more music, I'd do more hobbies, I'd spend more time with my family. A lot of these answers that are more from the heart and also from the creative intuitive.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Tim,
hey guys, yeah.
Hate to interrupt, but I think we're going to go ahead and retire for the night.
Okay, well, hey, thanks for coming on for the last show. I know you guys are at some point going to be involved going forward with Bravo New World. You don't have a choice in that, so
indeed.
Have dreams of podcasts to come.
Nice to meet you guys, too.
Another day.
Yeah, and it sounds like, we have gone over you guys, and so we should probably wrap it up. Lisa, I thought that you kind of turned things with an excellent question. What is your hope? Scott, I want to ask you, I want to turn this question around on you. What would you do if there was no money?
I would spend a great deal more time with my family. I would continue doing the radio show because I think the tone of the radio show would then change if there was no money. If scarcity-based system and scarcity-based consciousness ceased to be, then I think people would show their true potential, and I would want to have them on my show.
That's beautiful. Nice. Really, what we're talking about is an end of lack, an end of need, an end of scarcity, and so here we are, 3 days out from this big date that we've been focusing on for a couple decades, some of us, and we're right on the cusp. It's about to happen. This is the last night of this show, and so what I want everybody to do is visualization is one of the things that from time to time we have pushed on this show. Scott talked about Art Bell getting people to all focus on something. What if everybody who's listening to this, whether it's the Do As One or the Breathe As One site, there are a number of groups that are getting together for collective meditation on the 21st. What if everybody chose one of those, or just chose for themselves, to take some time to visualize this change?
How we want it to be.
To visualize a world without scarcity. That is key. If we had that, and it doesn't matter how it happens.
I would say never focus on the negative and focus on the positive. Instead of focusing on a world without scarcity, focus on a world with abundance.
With abundance, yeah.
Right.
You're right.
Totally.
As Mother Teresa said, I'm not anti-war, I'm pro-peace.
Right.
So, let's kind of close with that. I'm going to ask everybody who's listening and everybody who's here on the panel on the show tonight, let's take that one thought, focus on that one thought for a few minutes on this coming Friday. Whether you do it at 11:11 or 12:12 or 3:58, just take a couple minutes, breathe, let your mind go quiet, get yourself into a headspace, let your brainwaves change a little bit, and then focus on that thought. And see if enough of us doing that together can actually have an effect that makes strides toward that reality.
That sounds great. And Tim, I would like to close your last show just by saying, if you don't mind me speaking for your audience, which I hope I can, that you have done extraordinary work. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for saying so. I'm
a big Tim supporter.
And I you too, my man. And I thank you guys. I thank you for putting in the time to bother to listen. The incentive has been to help, to add to the conversation, to prod the conversation, and make the resonant frequencies maybe resound a little bit more in the direction we want to go. And so, this isn't the end. This is just a transition into a new form. Just like
onward and upward.
Exactly. Nothing ever ends. Death isn't the end; it's a transition. And so, that's what we're doing with the show. It's just going to be a different format and have a different name. So, thank you guys for tuning in. And you know what? That's it for Extraordinary Year. Period.
Good night.
3 days shy of December 21st, 2012. And now the show enters its chrysalis stage. Sometime after the solstice and the new year, Bravo New World will enter its life and your inbox if you so choose. And remember, you can follow me on Twitter at Tim Bravo, and I will say it one last time. Keep your ear to the ground and your eye to the sky, kids. Do not be afraid. This has been an extraordinary year. Peace is on its way. Namaste, guys. I love you all. We'll see you on the other side. Easy put you in a race. Only when we're uncomfortable that the world ever seems to change. I am here to speak my mind. I am a living story, riding on the edge of time. I am that I for this year. When I first started this show, I was really heavy into using channeling and defending channeling as a source of information. And I have pretty much virtually stopped reading channelings at this point. I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, I all power to you, Lisa. I'm not trying to discourage anyone. It's just, according to the channelings that were given us in 2010, 2011, even the tried and true ones, the ones that we felt were safe, like Solusa, according to these sources, I'm kind of embarrassed, so I backed off it. The predictions were made that just haven't come to pass. At this point, we should have had disclosure according to what we were told. We should have had our friends walking among us according to what we were told. We should have had Nara, as from what we were told, in free energy and removal of the cabal. And we don't have these things, and what we do have is that these people are still in control, even though we're being told that they're in containment or whatever. Barack Obama is supposed to be this white knight in shining armor, and I'm seeing a guy who signed the NDAA, who basically bent over on health care, who has killed 2 Americans without due process, signed off on it himself, and has been responsible for actions that have killed countless innocent children. I mean, we want to talk about the poor kids who died in Connecticut. Many, many, many more kids have died at Barack Obama's hand. And so that's one of the things that's changed for me over the course of this year.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I mean, I don't disagree at all with that perspective, other than to say, let's just take 2010 to now as an example. And, there have been a lot of changes. I guess the thing for me is just the fact that, yes, clearly the cabal still has a stranglehold, at the very least, on the mainstream media. But we know a lot of this stuff is happening underground. I mean, every single thing you kind of ticked off in terms of, the cabal, the resignations that we've seen, it just seems like a lot of people are being taken out of the loop one way or another. We've also seen disclosure. Now, we haven't seen disclosure through the mass media, but we have seen massive disclosure coming out of lots of, different countries in various forms. The Ecuadorian military, completely opened the doors on everything. We had, the Russian Prime Minister. Maybe he was joking. I don't know. I actually speak Russian, and if he was joking, it was about the most deadpan joking I have ever heard.
Anybody who watched that interview, I mean, the joking, that was something that was subjectively applied to his response. He did
mention Men in Black, but it was kind of like an afterthought, like he was
but the way he said it, he was saying, if you want to know more, just check out the movie Men in Black. I mean, you're right, he was deadpan. He was very serious. Sorry, Trev, what was that?
Didn't he call it a documentary? I was like, okay.
Yeah. He did. He called it a documentary.
Men in Black, and then I was like,
and he certainly didn't seem to be kidding to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're right.
Up to him saying that was totally serious. I mean, he was saying, like, when you're the president, you get this dossier and that dossier and this bunch of information and blah, 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 blah. And at the beginning of the interview, I think he said something along the lines of, okay, this is the only time I'm going to tell you this.
Well, it was a direct question, and it was a direct answer. And
he thought he was off the mic.
And I don't think
I understand.
Well, that's what they said. His answer did seem a bit, as if he were parsing his words, doing the whole official speak thing, or being Medvedev. How's his name? Pronounce his name for me. Medvedev?
Medvedev?
Okay, well,
yeah.
That dude?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
He seemed to be...
I've listened to all these channeled messages for, quite a while now. I mean, going on a couple of years, like really pretty hardcore. And one of the things I don't think I communicated fully when we spoke last is that, the messages have had a really big impact on me, I think, in terms of my spiritual development. And, that's the conclusion I've always arrived at, is that, even if it turns out, that they're hoaxes or it's some kind of hocus pocus or what have you, I've always found the content of the messages to be really useful. And one of the things they talk about so much is that the process of ascension is really about us getting out of our heads, which are the things that construct the matrix for us, and getting into our hearts, right? And learning how to recognize the sensations, in your heart, in your chest, when things happen. So I've definitely developed an awareness about that. And I guess I would say the sensations that I've been feeling these last, couple weeks, 3 weeks, or, so, is really, like this expansion of my heart. Like I'm feeling things more.
So you think that it's related to your chakras, and you also think that it would be of value for people to try and pay attention to sensations in the areas of their chakras?
I find it really useful. I mean, I'm a person who's massively in my head all the time, right? My whole being is about being in my brain. And so for me to shift my awareness to, other parts of my being has been really useful. So, one thing that happens to me, for instance, is, as I'm kind of contemplating information, possible truths, realities, etc., I definitely get a sensation in my third eye and have for some time. Like I feel it kind of fluttering, like kind of opening and closing. And my heart seems to do the same thing. I went through a massive, heartbreak a few years ago and spent about 6 months waking up every day with like a 100-pound block on my chest, right?
Oh.
And you work through these things and you get over it, and now the sensations are different. It's something like I kind of feel like I've been broken open a little bit. I kind of feel like I was very contained. I had definitely isolated myself from a lot of humanity for a while, I mean, you're a music guy, so you probably understand this. I totally reconnected with music massively in the last, 3 weeks.
It's a great escape. It can definitely be used for an escape, that's for sure.
Yeah, but you see, it's beyond that. It's not even just an escape. It's like I'm completely obsessed with Mumford and Sons right now, and I am just so overwhelmed by their genius.
So you mean more recently? Okay, I get you.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
recently I have a long-term thing with music, but more recently I've really reconnected with it.
Well,
it
can be used as an escape, but it is also such a wonderful method for connecting with spirit and connecting with that part of you that thrills, that can be thrilled. Doc, I'm going to bring into the conversation right now. We got somebody from Tulsa. Tulsa, who do we have?
Hey, what's up, Tim? This is Trevor.
Trevor! Dude, I was really hoping I'd finally get to hear from you tonight.
What's up?
Ladies and gentlemen, I've been waiting to talk to this guy for a long time. This is definitely one of our more active guys on the Facebook page, and just somebody that I talk to in my day-to-day life. So good to hear your voice, brother.
Yeah.
My mother's from Tulsa.
I'm also bringing
Friday's the 21st, so I got to call in.
Yeah, no, this is it. It's your last shot, bro.
Yes.
I'm also bringing in the lovely Flip Side, my wife.
Hello.
So, honey, you're on the line.
Hi.
Okay, so, Trev, did you have a comment kind of picking up
where
Lisa
was? I was listening in, so...
Okay. Well, you know what? Just listen in and chime in wherever it feels right.
Yeah.
Guys, don't worry about stepping on people. It's a radio show. It's a conversation. And I'd love for it to get a little rowdy, so do what you want.
Tim, let's talk about where you're at. What do you think's going to happen on Friday?
Well, I'm not a long way off from you, I don't think, if I am off at all. My view is it's not 21st yet. It hasn't happened yet. Anything could happen. If I've learned anything over the course of this show talking to people who are plugged into spirituality and the essence of how reality is constructed, I know that it's about choice, and it's an unwritten choice. We still have time to choose. Our choices now and our thoughts now are constructing, co-creating whatever it is that happens at that point. I mean, yes, all time is now, and yes, we are choosing right now what will happen then. There's all sorts of potential for anything to happen. A major disclosure event, some sort of contact event, some sort of feigned catastrophe, some sort of EMP attack. The sun could belt something out that, like it did recently, that had it, been directly hit at Earth, would have fried the grid. If something like that happens, we're talking maybe 3 days of darkness in a metaphoric sense. But anything could happen. We know there is going to be a unique alignment between the Earth, the Sun, the center of the galaxy, and the star that our star revolves around, and the star that star revolves around. This is something that has not happened, and we don't think it's ever happened. So the Mayans knew that something big was happening then. They knew that there was going to be this alignment with the Pleiades and the center of the universe, but the galaxy. So, the Mayan calendar does end on Friday. Did know something was up. My attitude is, worst case scenario, we're simply reaching the midpoint of a transition. So if that's the case, everything should be downhill in a good way.
Yeah.
But, I don't know what you guys think.
I think that's true. I mean, the channelings, I will say, I tend to get confused by a lot of people who are sort of like the intermediaries, and so I found that going directly to the channelings is sort of the easiest way for me to parse through everything. And there's a lot of momentum in the channelings for sure, and they're coming fast, they're coming furious. The tone of them is much more excited. It's all about specifying the dates. They talk about the 21st, they talk about the 23rd, and they talk about it like it's going to be this glorious party.
Well, I'll take a party.
So, big party. And, how, essentially it's, the story, of course, is that the 21st is the day the Matrix is shut down. We get our upgrades. We get to reboot into this new reality, which it sounds to me like won't be 100% different from the current reality. We just get to get rid of all the crappy stuff, which seems pretty awesome. So, I don't know. There's still a lot of movement and a lot of people talking about it and a lot of people channeling, various extraterrestrial entities and angels and other spiritual beings. And, you know, Archangel Michael is like on the horn every single day through various different, you know, individuals. And there's just you know, if you just, you know, take stock of sort of the vibe of the movement, I mean, the buzz is definitely increasing. So, you know, I'm personally just really curious to see kind of what happens, if anything. And I think the thing that's going to be a little disappointing, you know, to us, you know, this, I guess the slightly more pragmatic people who have been watching this, is if we can't see that something tangible, you know, and then we get the messages the next day saying, oh, yeah, it was this amazing portal opening, and didn't you feel it? And now we've got all this great new energy, and oh, it's so wonderful. And we're just
I'm sure the suggestible
kids are getting shot in schools.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily a natural occurrence. One of the things that's changed for me over
Blog Talk Radio.
Warning, the following program may include profane language, controversial viewpoints, and perspectives on the true nature of reality so far removed from the status quo, they'll make your head spin like a top. Young children, corporate executives, and religious fundamentalists should turn away now.
A hearty welcome to all my brothers and sisters around planet Earth. I'm Tim Bravo, and I thank you for joining us T-minus 3 days until December 21st, 2012. One last time, let's do this. Our guest tonight is you, listener. And just in case you haven't heard, tonight will be the final episode of this show. But I ask you not to think of this as an end, but rather see it as going through a transition. As death is just a transition from one mode of life to another, as the caterpillar becomes the moth, so will this show transition to a new name, a new platform, and a new format. Extraordinary Year was started because of 2012 and has always been just about 2012. Now, the year is winding down, so it seems appropriate to wind the show down on this final Tuesday before the end of the countdown, December 21st, 2012. The new show will come to you in the form of a podcast called Bravo New World, and it will live on the blog that I've run for years by the same name. I still plan to pull off the most amazing and topical interviews that I can arrange, and I'm already working on lining up some guests. I'm still going to be talking about world events from the awakening perspective. My absolute favorite part of doing this show has been interacting with you guys, the call, and iTunes, etc. I'm afraid you Blog Talk Radio listeners will have to make a switch, though, if you want to keep up with us in the future. One thing that will be changing is I'll finally be implementing a podcast format that Canada and Steiny wanted to use from the get-go. And if you followed the show from the beginning, you know who I'm talking about. Hopefully those guys will have a chance to get with us later this evening. They had something come up, and so they are running a little late, and I'm not sure if they're going to be able to make it. And to you callers who are already calling in, I'm going to get you guys in a second. I'm going to pull you in. Don't bail on me. Just hang on just a few more minutes while I get through all this business about the transition going forward. So anyway, one of the things we're going to do is do what we talked about doing from the beginning, which is we just get together in the same place, turn on some mics, pop the tops on some Heinekens, and just kind of shoot the shit. And so I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to guess those episodes will start good and end great as we imbibe and joke around. So that's where we're going, kids. If you want to get a jump on the new show, head to bravonewworld.blogspot.com and sign up for email updates. You'll find the email subscription window on the upper right of the page. That's bravonewworld.blogspot.com. Now, Extraordinary Year has been a part of my daily life, as well as many of you, through the Facebook page. And I just don't think I could live without it. So I implore everyone out there, go like the new Facebook page right now while you're listening. Right now, please. It's facebook.com/Bravo New World Blogcast. All one word, Bravo New World Blogcast. I'll stop posting to the Extraordinary Year Facebook page tomorrow and start posting everything I normally would to the new page. You know, interaction is key for me, you guys. I mean, I dig doing these shows, but the whole point is to try to serve others. I'm trying to deliver news, important interviews, trying to lift up your spirits and help you realize you are not alone. I am your fellow freak. So let's be freaks together until our vibration of freakiness spreads to the world. The world. So if you have an interview idea, if you have a question, message me through the Facebook page. Have a news story, post it. So that's it. That's my spiel. I hope you'll make the transition with us. And with that, I'm going to pull a couple of callers who have patiently waited for me to get through that little business onto the air with us here. Okay, 425. Who do I have here? Area code 425.
It's Lisa Galarno.
Lisa! What's up, Doc?
Good, how are you?
And 678. Who do I have there? Area code 678.
Hi.
Hey, what's up? Who am I talking to here?
Hey, my name is Cyril.
And where are you calling from, brother?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Awesome. Atlanta. One of the things I love about this show is being able to talk to people from all over the place. So thanks for calling in tonight, guys. So if you would, take a look back on this extraordinary year with me. The show and the year. Do you guys have any thoughts or a story to share about how 2012 has met your expectations or not, or how the show has affected you?
Shall I go first?
Have at it.
Okay. Well, I guess I would say on one level, as we talked a couple of weeks ago or whenever it was, a month ago, I think a lot of the things that we would have expected to have happened by now kind of haven't happened. I remember when 11/11/11 rolled around and, that excitement really started to build up. And, there were a lot of really, I think, tangible things in terms of arrests and resignations and disclosure and all of those kinds of things that seemed lined up to happen, well before December 21st, which, I think we've been told for quite some time, if, not the date of ascension, is at least a very, pivotal point. But, what I've started to discover, I think, as I've kind of watched these things happen and, listening to a lot of people who are, extremely spiritual in nature, who are much more concerned with talking about, the energies and the flows of the energies, people like Bill Ballard and Jill Renee Feeler and, some of those individuals, is that, they seem to really feel these things. They seem to really, really feel these, various portal openings and see this, shift in momentum and all of this. And I haven't really experienced it on the, daily individual level, that they seem to be talking about. And I've really wanted to. I'm like, I want some of that.
Yeah, well, and we've heard so many people write about it. I know that you're following a lot of the same people that I am or have. Yeah. And people are talking about, you can feel the energies now. And it's like, I want to. If I really think about it, I think maybe I do, but am I just trying to convince myself?
Yeah. Well, that said, I will say that, since we had our last conversation, and I would say just, a bit before 12/12, not like right on 12/12, but before 12/12, I feel like I started to finally feel something. And, I've been trying to figure out how to articulate it, and the best way I can describe it is kind of like a fire in my heart. I know that sounds so cheesy. But
now, by that, do you mean like the physical sensation of warmth, or something else?
No, just this. Well, no, I will say there's definitely some sensation there. Like, I'm a person who kind of feels my chakras, and I feel things very strongly in the pit of my stomach. For instance, when we got that terrible news about, the children and the teachers and all of that, on Friday, I was sick to my stomach, physically all day.
I do want to, I know people are probably sick of hearing about and talking about what happened in Connecticut last Friday, later on in the show tonight, and I went ahead and scheduled the whole 2 hours. I don't know if we're going to use the 2 hours, but I would like to at least touch on that, not because of what happened there, but because of what I think may have been behind it and what it's being used for. But I'm sorry to interrupt you.
I'd love to hear about that. Yeah, for sure, because that was a very strange thing to happen, right now at this time when we're all sort of ramping up for our glorious future. And, that was, kind of the major wake-up call for us. But when I'm talking about the fire in my heart, I don't know,